My neighbor has been stealing from my garden for months. I set up a camera and caught someone I never expected. 35F, never thought I'd be writing this post, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some outside perspective on whether I'm handling this situation right. This whole thing has turned my family upside down, and honestly, I'm still trying to process everything that's happened in the last few weeks. Let me start from the beginning. I've been an avid gardener for the past 3 years, starting during lockdown like many others. What began as a way to avoid grocery stores during the pandemic turned into something much more meaningful. My backyard garden became my sanctuary, my pride and joy. I grew everything from heirloom tomatoes to rare pepper varieties, herbs, and seasonal vegetables. My neighbors would often stop by to admire my garden, and I loved sharing tips and produce with anyone who showed interest. The first sign that something was wrong appeared about 6 months ago. I noticed some of my vegetables disappearing, but not in the way you'd expect from animal damage. The missing produce was always the perfectly ripe ones, picked with precision. At first, I did what any reasonable person would do. I blamed the local wildlife. We have plenty of rabbits and squirrels in our neighborhood, so it seemed like a logical conclusion. I invested in garden fencing, chicken wire, and even tried some natural animal deterrents. Nothing worked. The disappearances continued, becoming more frequent and selective. What really caught my attention was the pattern. The thief only took the best produce, leaving anything that wasn't perfectly ripe. They even knew how to properly harvest herbs without damaging the plants. This wasn't animal behavior. This was someone who knew what they were doing. I started keeping detailed notes about what was missing and when. 3 Japanese eggplants on Monday, a handful of perfectly ripe Cherokee purple tomatoes on Wednesday, fresh basil and Thai basil on Friday. The pattern was too precise to be random. I mentioned it to my partner, who suggested installing a security camera, but I hesitated. It felt like an escalation I wasn't ready for. What if I was just being paranoid? What if it made me look crazy to my neighbors? Then came the incident that pushed me over the edge. I had been nurturing a specific batch of rare cherry tomatoes, planning to enter them in our community's annual garden competition. I'd won second place last year, and these tomatoes were my shot at first place. They were just days away from being perfect for the competition when they vanished overnight. Every single one of them, picked with expert precision. That was it. I ordered a security camera that same day. Nothing fancy, just a basic outdoor model that could send alerts to my phone. My partner helped me install it, positioning it to cover the main garden beds while being discreet enough not to bother the neighbors. The image quality at night wasn't perfect, but it would be enough to identify anyone who came into our yard. For 3 days, nothing happened. I was starting to wonder if maybe the thief had noticed the camera when my phone buzzed at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday. I had just woken up and was getting ready for work when the alert came through. Someone was in my garden. With shaking hands, I opened the app, and what I saw made my coffee cup slip from my fingers and shatter on the kitchen floor. The person methodically harvesting my vegetables wasn't some random thief or neighborhood kid. It was my mother-in-law. I watched in stunned silence as she moved through my garden with practiced efficiency, wearing gardening gloves and carrying a cloth shopping bag. She knew exactly what she was looking for, checking each plant for the ripest produce. She even used proper harvesting techniques I had actually learned from her years ago when I first started gardening. My mother-in-law lives about 20 minutes away and has had a key to our house for years. She often stops by unannounced to check on things when she knows we're at work. Our relationship has always been complicated. She's never fully approved of me, especially my decision to focus on my career and hobbies instead of giving her grandchildren right away. But this felt like a violation on a whole different level. The worst part was remembering all the family dinners where I'd mentioned the missing vegetables. She'd sat there, offering suggestions about keeping animals out of the garden, recommending different types of fencing, even sharing stories about how she dealt with garden thieves in her own yard years ago. The level of deception was staggering. I showed the footage to my partner that evening. They were mortified but also defensive, suggesting that maybe their mother thought it was okay since I usually share my harvest anyway. But this had been going on for months, and she never said a word. She watched me stress about it, invest in preventive measures, and even comfort me when I lost my competition tomatoes. My partner begged me to let them handle the situation. They wanted to talk to their mother over the weekend, approach it gently, find out what was really going on. I agreed reluctantly. But the next morning, I got another alert. She was back, this time taking the beefsteak tomatoes I'd been carefully tending for weeks. Something in me snapped. I didn't wait for my partner's diplomatic approach. I took screenshots from the video footage and sent them to her with a simple message. We need to talk about this. Now. She arrived at our door within an hour, tears already streaming down her face. In her hands was a bag full of vegetables, my vegetables. Her explanation came out in broken sentences between sobs. She had been taking the produce to her church's soup kitchen. Apparently, they serve fresh meals to homeless people 3 times a week, and she's been a volunteer there for years. She claimed she was embarrassed to ask for the vegetables directly because I had repeatedly declined her invitations to join her church. She thought if she told me about the soup kitchen, I would feel pressured to get involved with her church activities. In her mind, it was easier to take the vegetables secretly than to have another conversation about religion. The situation became even more complicated when my partner's siblings got involved. Word spread through the family quickly, and suddenly everyone had an opinion. Some thought I was being cruel for confronting their mother when she was doing charitable work. Others were firmly on my side, pointing out that good intentions don't justify months of deception and theft. My partner is caught in the middle, understanding my anger, but also sympathetic to their mother's charitable work. They've suggested we try to find a compromise, maybe setting up a regular donation schedule for the soup kitchen. But for me, this isn't about the vegetables anymore. It's about trust and respect. I called the soup kitchen to verify her story, and yes, she's been a dedicated volunteer there for over a decade. They confirmed receiving fresh produce from her regularly, which they greatly appreciated for their meals. The director even offered to pay for any vegetables they'd received, but that wasn't the point. The garden that was once my happy place now feels different. I find myself checking the security camera footage compulsively, even though I know she won't come back after being caught. I've changed the locks on our house, something we probably should have done years ago anyway, but that feels like treating a symptom rather than the disease. My mother-in-law has apologized multiple times, offering to pay for everything she's taken, and even volunteering to help me replant anything that was damaged. She sent messages through my partner, through her other children, even through mutual friends, all expressing her remorse and asking for forgiveness. But every time I think about forgiving her, I remember how she sat at our dinner table, watching me stress about the missing vegetables, offering advice and sympathy, all while knowing exactly what was happening. The level of deception feels almost pathological. How do you rebuild trust after something like that? The garden competition is next week, and I've withdrawn my entry. I just can't bring myself to participate this year. My partner says I'm letting her win by giving up something I love, but it doesn't feel like the right time. I need to focus on deciding what kind of relationship I want with my mother-in-law going forward. Some family members have suggested family counseling, which might not be a bad idea. Others think I should just forgive and forget, focus on the fact that the vegetables went to a good cause. But I can't help feeling that if she was willing to deceive me about this, what else might she be hiding? Was I wrong to confront her directly instead of letting my partner handle it? Should I be more understanding because her intentions were charitable? How do we move forward from here as a family? The vegetables might have gone to a good cause, but does that justify the months of gaslighting and manipulation? Edit. Thank you all for the responses and support. To address some common questions. Yes, I verified that the soup kitchen is legitimate and they really were receiving my produce. No, she wasn't selling the vegetables or using them for herself. And yes, I've already changed our locks, not just because of this incident, but because it was probably time anyway. Edit 2. For those asking about the church situation, it's been a point of tension since before we got married. I was raised in a different faith, and her persistent attempts to convert me have been an ongoing source of conflict. This feels like an extension of that larger issue. Edit 3. Some have suggested donating part of my garden's produce to the soup kitchen going forward, which I'm considering. But I'll be doing it on my own terms, not through my mother-in-law. Trust has to be earned back slowly, just like growing a garden.